If we've learned something out of this series, it's this. Doug Walker does not understand Jurassic Park. He sees the movies as just dinosaur movies. They're just dinosaurs chasing people. Monster movies, and nothing deep or sophisticated about them, despite claiming to know what they're about. All what he wanted was dinosaurs killing people, and that's it. Just like with The Last Action Hero and Starship Troopers, where he completely missed their point being satires of action films and treated them like serious movies. Or with the 2017's It and The Jungle Book, thinking they were meant to be dark and gritty adult reboots. Even the original Jurassic Park, he just saw special effects and dinosaurs and cared little for anything else about it. It's ironic how he keeps telling us that we need movies that makes us think and he wants us to think, but how often does he apply what he preaches on himself? Just like how he always complains and makes sappy speeches to film studios not getting what source materials they use for their movies, he never understood this franchise. And sadly, it seems even the general audience sees them this way as well, as they never understood the real depth of this franchise or questioning what little plot holes they think of that was already explained and were common facts to the devoted fans of the franchise. Just a reminder, Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert, you know, the most iconic movie critics of all times, even they saw the original Jurassic Park movie as a lesser version of Jaws with no interesting characters except for Ian Malcolm, and it was boring when the dinosaurs are not on screen, and all it had was the special effects and action scenes.
Jurassic Park has a number of peak thrills at the level of the attacks in Jaws, and it has moments of real wonder, but when the animals are off screen, the film really lags. That wasn't true if you think about it with Jaws, which had 3 marvelous characters hunting the shark. Jurassic Park only has Goldblum, the rest of the crew stands around and smiles or schemes. Still, thumbs up for me, the action scenes are really enjoyable.
I give a thumbs up too, and also for the action scenes, and I feel that really this movie though is a missed opportunity because what he doesn't have here, and what I really missed from a movie by Spielberg like Close Encounters of the Third Kind, is the sense of awe, the sense of majesty. These creatures are back and it's amazing, and right away after an opening shot that has a little of that,
yes, it does.
The movie disintegrates basically into a monster picture where the dinosaurs are chasing everybody and the people are running away and there's lots of action and lots of screaming, but there's not really any opportunity to really give these creatures their due. It's almost like the movie doesn't have any respect for the intelligence of the audience, that they might really be interested in dinosaurs instead of just in the action scenes.
We could have used more scenes, you're right, of awe, and that's, well, I think you're just right.
I guess things never change, huh? Jurassic Park was never intended to be about the dinosaurs. Yes, they play a role, but they were not the focus. You can replace them with other things, or even robots, and you can get the same effect here.
心を持つロボットですとさよ、感情を持ち自らの判断で行動する世界初の危険ですな。勝手に行動するロボットなんて。アトムは生きを守るいい子じゃ。いいかね。アトムには人間と同じ心がある。感情があるんじゃ。アトムの誕生によって人間とロボットが本当に友情で結ばれる時代が来るんじゃよ。友情？ロボットは人間のために働くんじゃないんですか？
ロボット法の問題は大丈夫なんですか？
人と同じ心があるのなら光じゃ憎しみの感情もあるということですね。あのアトムとかいうロボットに一体どれだけのパワーが秘められているのかはあなたですら分かっていない。アトムは危険なロボットではない。そう言い切れますかな？何じゃと？
All of Jurassic Park, novels and movies explored many ethical and scientific themes and topics far beyond uncontrollable science or even playing God. If you ask anybody what Jurassic Park is about, that's all what they will say. It's either that or stock answers like man versus nature or just dinosaurs in general. Remember all the talk from Ian Malcolm about chaos theory and the butterfly effect? How many of you did take their time to learn about these terms and their relationship to Jurassic Park, or why they were significant to begin with? And how many of you just saw it as a silly science mumbo-jumbo said by a silly character no one can take seriously due to how he talks or who he is played by? It's like Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. When you say the name Frankenstein, people automatically think of the horror movie, the mad scientist, and the block-headed Boris Karloff monster. They see it as merely the horror movie, but how many of them stop to think about the themes it carries, or if it was just another piece of brainless entertainment without putting much thought into it?
You do speak.
Yes, I speak and read and think and know the ways of man. You gave me these emotions, but you didn't tell me how to use them. Now 2 people are dead because of us. Why? What of my soul? Do I have one? Who were these people of which I am comprised? Good people? Bad people? Did you ever consider the consequences of your actions? You gave me life, and then you left me to die. Who am I?
You. I don't know.
And you think I'm evil.
How many of you see Godzilla as anything other than rubber-suited monsters fighting on a set, and not a metaphor for a much serious topic?
もしも一旦このオキシジェンデストロイヤーを使ったら最後、世界の為政者たちが
I know that makes me sound like a horrible weeaboo, but it's like, I was there for the March 11th earthquake. I know I've said that 100 times, but I need to kind of drive in home why I felt the way I did and why no one else seemed to in this theater. I was there I felt that earthquake. I was safe. I was like 200 miles away from that. I still felt it. I still felt the aftershocks. I didn't get sleep for days because of how terrified I was that, God, what if Kansai's next? Kanto got slammed. Who's to say we're not next? We're on this giant fault line. So when I was watching this movie, I couldn't do much of anything except either like shake my head in disbelief or just like felt very heart-wrenched because I knew what the message was. The message wasn't about atomic bombings, which we're going to get to later because that part was stupid. But nuclear power and just the existence of it in itself. Like I was present for protests for anti-nuclear movements in Japan. I saw that firsthand. So it's like I'm just saying this movie had more deep moments than I really thought I was going to give it credit for.
How many of you see Star Trek as nothing more than silly space adventures with bad actors and technobabble and not look at the political undertones it carries?
Do you realize what you've done?
I've only just begun. I'm going to eliminate every Maquis colony in the DMZ.
You're talking about turning hundreds of thousands of people into homeless refugees.
That's right. When you attacked the Malinche, you proved one thing. That the Maquis have become an intolerable threat to the security of the Federation, and I am going to eliminate that threat.
But think about those people you saw in the caves. Huddled and starving, they didn't attack the Malinche.
You should have thought about that before you attacked a Federation starship.
Now, bear in mind, all of Star Trek up until this point has been all about how humanity is above such underhanded tactics, how we're so morally good, and we don't use cloaking technology because we don't sneak around, and yada yada yada. Look, the point is that this story is a confession. This is a story of a good man who is admitting to his crimes, all the terrible things he has done, and all for the greater good.
People are dying out there every day. No, I had to keep my eye on the ball, winning the war, stopping the bloodshed. Those were the priorities.
It's dramatic as all hell, and as I said, with all the talk in the past about the moral superiority of the Federation in Star Trek, this shows what happens when things are pushed to their limits, and the kinds of things you may have to do when your back's to the wall and it's the only way to save everyone.
Garrick was right about one thing. A guilty conscience is a small price to pay for the safety of the Alpha Quadrant.
How many of you see Doctor Who as nothing but cheap special effects and emo Tennant, and not stopped and wondered if there are hidden ethical messages?
If someone who knew the future pointed out a child to you and told you that that child would grow up totally evil, to be a ruthless dictator who would destroy millions of lives, could you then kill that child? Do I have the right? Simply touch one wire against the other, and it's it. The Daleks cease to exist. Hundreds of millions of people, thousands of generations can live without fear, in peace, and never even know the word Dalek.
Then why wait? If it was a disease or some sort of bacteria you were destroying, you wouldn't hesitate.
But if I kill, wipe out a whole intelligent life form, then I become like them. I'd be no better than the Daleks.
Think of all the suffering there'll be if you don't do it.
How many of you paid attention to the conversations in Metal Gear and wondered what they really mean over those who just saw it as just a game with nothing deep about it?
You exercise your right to freedom, and this is the result. All rhetoric to avoid conflict and protect each other from hurt. The untested truths, spun by different interests, continue to churn and accumulate in the sandbox of political correctness and value systems.
Everyone withdraws into their own small gated community, afraid of a larger forum. They stay inside their little ponds, leaking whatever truth suits them into the growing cesspool of society at large.
The different cardinal truths neither clash nor mesh. No one is invalidated, but nobody is right.
Not even natural selection can take place here. The world is being engulfed in truth.
And this is the way the world ends, not with a bang, but a whimper.
We all heard of the movie The Shining, right? How many of you see it as just a horror movie with a crazy guy with an axe? And how many of you stop to think about all the symbolism and subliminal messages it carries and how it relates to the characters and course of events?
Several times in the movie, this elevator with its gaping mouth and eyes appearance is intercut with Denny's screaming face, cross-symbolising the two. And the teddy even has a red gaping mouth like the River of Blood screaming elevator face. And if you're wondering where the hell Kubrick may have gotten the gaping mouth idea from, there's a little moment in the Shining novel on page 280 where a terrified Jack Torrance avoids going into an elevator because, quote, "It was too much like an open mouth, too much by half," end quote. What are the odds of that popping up in the novel and then the face comparison with an elevator popping up in the movie? I think Kubrick read that line in the novel and said, hey, I can do something with that thematically.
Kubrick shows us how you escape from the nightmare of the past by retracing your steps, as Danny does in that last line, which means acknowledging what happened or learning about the past, and then getting out. Only if you are going to be able to shine and see what the patterns are so you know how to get away from them and avoid them and go for the good things.
If current day comic book movies are able to make people think about their themes and the ideas they represent and praise them for tackling serious subject matters, why can't people do the same thing here?
Let me ask you a question. What if Pakistan marched into Mumbai tomorrow and you knew that they were going to drag your daughters into a soccer stadium for execution? And you could just stop it with a flick of the switch. Wouldn't you? Wouldn't you all?
Not if it was your switch.
In my Jurassic World video, I said that I see the franchise as an example of the arrogance of mankind and its refusal to learn from their previous mistakes, so it's destined to repeat these mistakes forever. It might not be what it is all about, it could also be about the danger of capitalism and greed. After all, many bad choices in these movies were done because of money. Hammond claiming he wanted to share the love of the dinosaurs with the world, yet he made a very expensive theme park in a place not everybody can afford to go to and still managed to cut corners. The scientists visiting the island because Hammond offered them money. Nedry sabotaged the island because either Hammond was underpaying him or Biosin gave him a better offer. Ludlow and InGen needed to bring dinosaurs to their park in mainland because their stocks were plummeting and they needed to avoid bankruptcy at any costs. Grant accepted to go to Sorna only after he was promised money. Jurassic World needed a new attraction because less visitors were coming to the park and the investors demanded for something that gives them more money. Mills wanted to capitalize the last remaining dinosaurs and wanted to sell them to those who pay the money. Greed is a big part in almost everything that happened in this franchise, but they were still subtle about it enough that no one came out and said stuff like, "I don't care about the money" or "capitalism is bad." One could also say the movies are about control, or lack thereof. It's close to the man versus nature thing, but more specific. Hammond thought he had control over his park using the most advanced system at the time, but the first scene alone is proof that he didn't have control from the beginning. In The Lost World, InGen thought they had control over the operation and were set to go back home, but once Nick Van Owen released the dinosaurs, they lost control over everything. In Jurassic World, control and obedience were big themes, with Hoskins thinking the raptors are easily controllable, while Owen sees it as a matter of respect and loyalty rather than total control over them. And this was shown when the Raptor squad went against the humans, but their loyalty to their owner won them over. Same thing with Fallen Kingdom. We see how the Indoraptor was uncontrollable and needed something else to guide it, and it was ended up used against him. And by the end, Blue decided to live free rather than to be controlled by somebody else. But that's my way of looking at it, and it sure is far more than just a monster movie. Fallen Kingdom is still asking a very good question. These dinosaurs are not natural creatures and they don't belong in this world. But do they deserve to die? Just because we brought them to our world, does that give us the right to destroy them all? Our history did show what happened when an invasive species interfered with an ecosystem of a specific place and how much damage it caused, like the African killer bees, or every creature the Europeans brought with them to Australia. It's an argument that still goes on to this day. Do we exterminate the rabbits, the dingoes, the camels, the sheep, and the pigs because they weren't native to Australia and they caused more harm than good to the ecosystem? Or do we accept them as Australia's animals after centuries of living in the continent and becoming normal to have around? This is not science fiction. It happened to us in real life and we're still paying for all the damage after hundreds of years. This is a real issue, and it works so well to what the franchise has been giving us for over 25 years. Do we show kindness and let them live but risk compromising our world? Or choose the hard way and kill them for the sake of the planet? This is what people should pay attention to instead of something stupid like breakable glass. People say the sequels were never deep or didn't have anything to go to, but I hardly disagree with that, with maybe the exception of Jurassic Park 3.
With the best intentions. Some of the worst things imaginable have been done with the best intentions.
All the sequels had hidden themes and meanings. Just because they weren't obvious to the untrained eye, that doesn't mean they don't exist. Just because they don't outright say it out loud to you, that doesn't mean they had nothing. It just gives you an opportunity to use your analytical skills to pick them one by one. They want you to think about them for yourself. Isn't that what made many great iconic movies? That they allow the audience to think with the movie instead of giving everything in endless exposition dumps? You know, show, don't tell?
But because one of the selling points of this movie is the over-explanation of everything, everything needs to be explained in the dialogue.
I'm talking to a candle.
Candelabra, please.
Yep, that's weird. Glad you pointed out how unlikely that is so I can take off the million layers of logic armor in which I have adorned myself so that I can suspend my disbelief. We can't leave things to people's imaginations, then they might go make an internet about it.
I'm a big fan of the Metal Gear franchise, and while the Phantom Pain is a fun game, it was disappointing that it relied heavily on the tell, don't show narrative. Yes, we all hated how exaggeratingly long the cutscenes of Guns of the Patriots, but this is also unfitting for Metal Gear. The famous codec conversations lets you see the characters talk and show how they react to various comments, and also gave some of the best displays of cutscenes in video games. But Metal Gear Solid 5 with reducing the majority of cutscenes to tape recordings instead of actually showing us the developments of the plot, really takes you out of the story. It's more egregious that they tend to be optional, making them even less relevant than ever. At least with Peace Walker, the voice acting gave a large range of characters within conversation, so even when you don't see anything, you can picture how they react to some of the goofiest things they talk about.
In some cases, they detected radiation.
Radiation?
Even in our own town, we had goats that died in strange ways. Some said they saw a monster. A lizard on 2 legs covered in spines from its head all the way down his back. I wonder if that's what the aliens look like, or if it was some pet they brought with them.
Either way, doesn't sound like a very advanced civilization to me.
Well, if you see one, tell it I said hi.
Sure, if it speaks human.
In The Phantom Pain, you have your 3 main characters sound the same. Without giving a profile picture on who is talking, you get lost in figuring out who is talking to whom. It doesn't help that Venom Snake barely talks even with the excuse of brain damage they use.
Boss, you don't understand what he said? I guess that makes sense. It looks like that horn stuck in your head has impacted the language center of your brain.
I think the worst moment is, without giving spoilers, is when they discover that a certain character from a previous game was found dead and they didn't show us anything. I wanted to see that moment and how the characters would react to it, but instead they reduced it to a recording. I mean, who cares? It's just a character we knew from before who played a big part in the previous title and relates to another beloved character from the franchise. It's not important, right? Back to the main topic. Steven Spielberg gave us a cinematic masterpiece, but if you really want to learn about the real idea of Jurassic Park, you really need to read the original work from the original author himself. If you claim to be a fan of the franchise, you owe it yourself to do so. A common point often brought up from time to time is fans claiming that they don't need to read the books and it's the movie's fault for not conveying their ideas the way they meant to begin with. I have a better question. If you are really fans and sing praises about this franchise, what's stopping you from wanting to learn more about it in the first place? All the information that I've been giving from the franchise from its different sources in all my videos, and the reason why I care about it, the reason I decided to do all this in the first place, is because I'm a fan who is passionate about what he loves and wants to learn more about it to better understand it and share the knowledge with those who appreciate it. Especially when someone is purposely misrepresented and spreads the false ideas about them. Just like if I would say the Transformers, G.I. Joe, He-Man, Ninja Turtles are just toy commercials with not much thought put into them. You'll find fans jumping in saying I did not understand them, and they will say they are more than just toy commercials. If you truly love Jurassic Park, why aren't you putting some effort in learning more about it? Isn't that what separates the fan from the casual viewer? One of my habits is to check out TV tropes and wikis to see what notes I missed or what behind the scenes stuff that I wasn't aware of in relation to what I last saw. If you're not that obsessive, that's fine. You don't really need to be such a dork as I am to fall in love with what you love. But if you start talking like you understand all the ins and outs of it, and think you understand better than those who do, without putting any effort in understanding what you're talking about, no, just stop before you embarrass yourself. And in this day where clickbaity titles can draw more crowds to them who spread these false ideas, that's a real issue. People just want things handed to them on the go, but they don't bother to check if they are true or not, or even try to make their own opinion instead of just repeating what everybody said already. Remember when everybody was on the bandwagon that was Michael Bay's Dora the Explorer, only to be revealed later that Michael Bay had nothing to do with it? Yeah, I guess you felt really stupid back then. I sat through all of the Twilight movies because I didn't want to follow that crowd of repeating everything they hear and decided to make my own thoughts about these movies. Maybe even have a different idea about them or pick things no one talks about. Was it worth it? Maybe. Maybe not. They were still terrible movies, but at least I have my own thoughts on them. And that's the thing I learned from Jurassic Park. Or rather, this experience. to think and form my own opinion while at the same time present all the knowledge I've been gathering for my entire life in different subjects and use that knowledge where it belongs to explain what the average person may think is an issue or an error from the author or movie makers. It's easy to say this doesn't work. The real challenge is to say this does work and explain how it works in a manner that convinces those who receive that piece of knowledge that it really does work. It would be easy if I just accepted what everybody says is wrong about Fallen Kingdom and repeated what they all said, but I decided to use my brain and put actual thinking and logic behind everything they had problem with. I am aware that not everybody is going to take my word for granted, and it's okay. I never said my word is the definitive opinion, and I'm not forcing you to accept everything I say. I'm still human. We're all human. I make mistakes, and I'm not ashamed to admit that. Sometimes it's a simple error I overlook, other times it's an unpopular opinion. It's okay if you don't agree with me. Feel free to have your opinions. I'm just sharing what I think. And it's your choice if you're going to accept it or not.
I don't really know what the truth is. I don't suppose anybody will ever really know. 9 of us now seem to feel that the defendant is innocent. But we're just gambling on probabilities. We may be wrong. We may be trying to let a guilty man go free. I don't know. Nobody really can. But we have a reasonable doubt. And that's something that's very valuable in our system. No jury can declare a man guilty unless it's sure.
We're all aware how CinemaSins strayed off their tracks and switched from snarky remarks for fun to just full-on bashing movies and overly criticize them over everything to the point they got the attention of movie directors to call them on their way of thinking, if not turn to a parody of themselves. But on the other hand, it's nice to have CinemaWins to spread some positivity on movies that had been seen in negative light for years. We all know the age of internet reviewers started out doing their negative views on everything. How it was cool to say bad stuff on whatever they talk about and get angry about it in the name of comedy. But you know what? Maybe it's time to let go of that style. Leave it behind and move on. All this negativity had run its course and it doesn't feel that special anymore. There was a time I used to follow Diversity and Comics, a channel criticizing the current state of comic book industry. Like everything else, I enjoyed him tearing these comics apart. No pun intended. But in addition to releasing like 10 videos a day, he got a bit egotistical and more cynical to the point he's getting more whiny than funny. It became really taxing on the mind. Especially that some comics he quote-unquote roasts didn't sound too bad and felt he was getting too harsh on them, and I ended up ignoring him and not paying more attention to him. And the less to say about his political views, the better. I'm not defending all of Marvel's current comic runs, but this is getting stupid. Many reviewers who started in this unapologetic bashing style had changed and switched from being negative to a good balance of bashing what they hate and praising what they like. Some of them even went ahead to change their style entirely, so now instead of childish comedy, we get mature analysis. And if they'd make fun of something, they would do it in a way they do have fun with it and respect what they criticize instead of out of pure spite.
Thanks, I hate it.
James Rolfe is well known as the angry video game nerd, one of the pioneers of that style, but instead of remaining the same as he is from his first episode, he improved in both his content and productive quality. And he made his show varied in styles and opinions and therefore was not a one-note character. Doug Walker, on the other hand, is still the same. Or to be exact, he got worse. Sure, he upped his production quality, but his presentation and thought processing got heavily worse. And instead of changing and improving himself where it needed to improve, he instead focused on the wrong side. He got so toxic, not only he treats the people who made them like mortal enemies, but also the people who like the movies he hates. Which is a line no reviewer should ever cross. Yet he enjoys attacking the defenders of these movies.
What do you care? Your dumb male adolescent minds are now trained to just watch it. It can't help it now because he has your penis. Michael Bay has your penis so that whenever he puts an explosion or boobs, you gotta look. You can't help it.
As for me, well, I had enough. It was an interesting experience, but this was really taxing my mind. I've been through enough bullcrap for the past few months and I got tired. I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. It's not even my job and I don't even ask you to pay or even ask you to subscribe. I will do something fun. Enough for the dumbass critic. It's time for me to move on. But seriously though, is there anybody who liked Fallen Kingdom? Is there anyone who have any positive thoughts on it? Just one review, please. That's all I ask. One positive review of Fallen Kingdom.
I love that dinosaur! And I'm like, I like you. But if that was me in his place, I'd be like, oh, I'm scared. Oh, there's dinosaurs. Oh, we gonna die. So I respect him. I'm telling y'all, man. Why are people not talking about this movie? So that's when the movie was like, oh, shoot, Andre, you thought you knew it was gonna happen. And cut. And I was like, oh, this is what I wanted. I love this movie.
There is hope. There is hope. There is hope. So anyway, that's the end of the series. I hope you enjoyed listening to this loser talking about dinosaurs and animals and all sorts of loser culture, and I thank you for testing your patience with me.
In other words, we'll be back in 2021. You do realize this isn't the final movie, right? We still have one more left.
Yeah, we will be back when the final Jurassic World movie is released. And until then, take care everyone, and I'll see you next time. Good job everyone, that was really great. You all did great. Even though I was barely acknowledged this time. Yes. So what do we do now?
How about a game of pool?
Pool? Seriously?
Ha! Try to beat that.
I don't get it! How do you play this thing without cards or holographic projectors?
We play with our hands.
You use your hands? That's stupid! I'm going to develop a hand-free card system.
Wait a minute! What about all the crazy stuff happened in the previously on segment? Deadpool, they were just jokes. You mean, they meant nothing? It was a teaser. That's what teasers do. Teasing. Aha! You know you're a jerk, right? I'm a YouTuber. Of course I'll be a jerk. Well, screw you two. Anyway, what is your next plan? Oh, I have a little thing or two in the making. You will see. You will see.
Okay, ladies, I know you did great in your movies, but let's face it. I'm going to be the popular one from this day on. I mean, come on, nobody likes you. One of you killed a popular character.
Yeah, you told them.
And the other one is boring. And let's not forget about the Ultimasaurus who got cancelled before getting her spotlight. Clearly I'm the winner of the hybrid race. Really? You're letting me join the club? Initiating. You mean like a ceremony. I'm cool with that. So, what do I have to do? Do I have to complete a task, or do you have to wave something over my head?